Imagine being able to master the art of controlling your mind, achieving an inner peace that remains unshaken by the storms of life. This is not a distant dream, but a real possibility, rooted in the ancient philosophy of Stoicism. Stay with me, and I'll show you how these timeless principles can transform your life. The first principle of Stoicism is the pursuit of inner tranquility and independence from external circumstances. The Stoics believed that true happiness and tranquility should not depend on what happens around us. They taught that we should find inner peace regardless of the world's fluctuations. This is a profound lesson because it means that no matter what happens, whether we face success or failure, joy or sorrow, we can maintain our composure and virtue. But how do we achieve this inner tranquility? It starts with understanding that everything in life is transient. The Stoics had a deep acceptance of impermanence. They knew that clinging to things or situations that are temporary would inevitably lead to suffering. By embracing the impermanence of life, they found a peace that remained unshaken by changes. This acceptance helps us to let go of our attachments and live more freely. When we encounter difficulties, the Stoics teach us to face them with equanimity. They saw adversities not as misfortunes, but as opportunities to grow, develop resilience, and strengthen the mind. This perspective transforms challenges into stepping stones toward personal growth. Moreover, achieving inner tranquility involves detaching from disturbing emotions. Emotions like anger, fear, and despair can be powerful and often lead us to act impulsively. Stoicism teaches us to recognize these emotions but not let them govern our actions or decisions. By doing so, we can respond to life's challenges with wisdom and calm. The second principle of Stoicism is the acceptance of what we cannot control. The Stoics emphasized that many events and circumstances in life are beyond our direct control. This includes the actions of other people, natural events, the past, and even the future. The key to Stoic serenity is fully embracing this reality and directing our efforts toward what we can control, primarily our own mind and actions. Understanding the realm of control helps us avoid futile frustrations. By recognizing that we cannot change certain things, such as the behavior of others or past events, we can focus our energy on what we can influence. This distinction is crucial because it prevents us from wasting emotional energy on things that are beyond our control. Often, we suffer due to unrealistic expectations. The Stoics advise us to let go of excessive expectations and accept reality as it is. This does not mean being indifferent or passive. Instead, it means aligning our expectations with what is possible and reasonable. By doing so, we reduce the gap between our desires and reality, leading to a more peaceful state of mind. When facing adversity, the Stoics encourage us to confront it with serenity. They remind us that adversity is a natural part of life. Instead of rebelling against difficulties, we can see them as opportunities to grow and learn. This mindset fosters resilience and courage. Another essential aspect of this principle is focusing on our reactions rather than actions. While we cannot control external events, we can control how we respond to them. The Stoics emphasize that our ability to choose our responses is one of life's greatest gifts. By cultivating virtuous responses like patience, compassion, and wisdom, we navigate life's challenges more effectively. Lastly, the Stoics teach us to detach from the past and future. Constant worry about what has been or what might be can prevent us from living fully in the present. The past cannot be changed, and the future is uncertain. Therefore, it is wise to focus our attention on the here and now, where we can make a real difference. The third principle is the practice of virtue as the supreme good. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that serve as pillars for living virtuously: wisdom, Sophia, courage, Andrea, justice, dikaiosine, and temperance, sophrosine. Each virtue plays an essential role in the pursuit of a meaningful and serene life. Wisdom involves the pursuit of knowledge and understanding of the world and human nature. It requires seeking truth, self-awareness, and the ability to discern what is truly valuable in life. Wisdom is not just intellectual knowledge, but a practical guide for living well. Courage is the virtue that allows us to face fear and act justly, even amid danger or adversity. The Stoics believed that courage is intrinsically linked to wisdom, as it requires discernment to face appropriate dangers. Courage helps us stand firm in our values and principles, even when it is challenging. Justice involves acting with impartiality, fairness, and respect for the rights of others. The Stoics saw justice as an essential part of a virtuous life and social harmony. Practicing justice means treating others with fairness and striving for the common good. Temperance is the control of desires and appetites, avoiding excess and uncontrolled pleasures. It includes mastery over emotions and the ability to maintain serenity in all circumstances. Temperance helps us live balanced lives, free from the extremes of indulgence and deprivation. Practicing these virtues is a continuous and challenging journey. The Stoics believed that no one is completely virtuous, but everyone can work to improve these virtues throughout life. By striving to embody these virtues, we create a foundation for a fulfilling and meaningful existence. The practice of virtue is also seen as a source of true happiness. The Stoics taught that genuine happiness lies in the practice of virtue, not in external achievements or possessions. By living according to these principles, we find a deep sense of fulfillment and meaning, regardless of our external circumstances. Moreover, the practice of virtue leads to emotional and spiritual self-sufficiency. This means we do not rely on external things such as wealth, status, or approval to find joy and satisfaction. By cultivating virtue, we build an inner fortress of contentment and peace. The fourth principle of Stoicism is the control of emotions. Mastering our emotions is fundamental to achieving serenity and virtue. The Stoics recognized that emotions can be powerful and often lead us to act impulsively or irrationally. Therefore, they emphasized the importance of controlling our emotions through various practices. The first step is to cultivate emotional self-awareness. This involves the ability to identify and understand our emotions as they arise. By recognizing when we are experiencing emotions such as anger, fear, sadness, or euphoria, we can begin to manage them effectively. After recognizing an emotion, Stoics recommend creating some emotional distance. Instead of being completely swept away by an emotion, they suggest taking a step back and examining the situation more objectively. This practice helps us to respond rather than react to emotional triggers. Reason should prevail over emotion, according to the Stoics. This means using the power of rational thought to evaluate the validity and utility of a specific emotion in a given situation. For instance, if we are feeling angry, we should question whether the anger is justified and whether acting on it is appropriate. This rational approach helps us to make better decisions. Once we have evaluated an emotion, we should choose a response that aligns with virtuous principles. Instead of reacting impulsively with anger, for example, we can choose to respond with calm and understanding. This requires self-control and constant practice. The Stoics also teach the transformation of negative emotions into constructive actions. Instead of allowing fear to paralyze us, we can use it as motivation to take sensible precautions. By redirecting our emotional energy towards positive outcomes, we grow stronger and more resilient. The ultimate goal is to achieve emotional equanimity, a state where emotions do not dominate us. This does not mean eliminating emotions, but controlling them in a way that does not negatively influence our judgment and actions. By achieving this balance, we can navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease. It is important to note that the Stoics do not advocate for the complete suppression of emotions, but for their wise and virtuous management. They recognize that natural emotions, such as grief at a loss or joy at a success, are part of the human condition. The key is to manage these emotions constructively. The fifth principle of Stoicism is focusing on the present. Living in the present is essential for mastering the mind and leading a more meaningful life. This principle encourages us to concentrate on the here and now, avoiding ruminating on the past or feeling anxious about the future. The Stoics teach that regretting the past is futile, since we cannot change it. Instead of getting lost in regrets, we should learn from our mistakes and past experiences. This perspective frees us from the weight of the past and allows us to focus our efforts on the present. Excessive worry about the future is another source of suffering. The Stoics believe that while it is wise to plan and prepare, we must recognize the inherent uncertainty of life and not let anxiety about the future dominate our thoughts and actions. The present is the only moment we truly have. The Stoics encourage us to fully appreciate the present, finding joy in the small things, and recognizing the beauty of the world around us. This not only brings satisfaction, but also helps cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Focusing on the present also translates into being fully engaged in the tasks we are performing. This means avoiding distractions and multitasking, which allows us to carry out our activities more effectively and with greater appreciation. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that the only moment over which we have real control is the present. By directing our attention to the present, we can channel our efforts to make wise and ethical decisions in the here and now without excessively worrying about what we cannot control in the future. Practices such as meditation and mindfulness are useful tools for developing a focus on the present. They help train our minds to be more present and aware, reducing mental agitation and promoting tranquility. By living more in the present, we can experience less suffering caused by worries about the past or future. This not only improves our quality of life, but also enables us to make more informed and ethical decisions. The sixth principle is the practice of indifference toward pleasures and pains. The Stoics argue that the unrestrained pursuit of pleasures and the fear of pain are significant sources of human suffering. To achieve serenity and virtue, it is essential to adopt an attitude of healthy indifference towards these experiences. The Stoics do not advocate for the total renunciation of pleasures, but rather for moderation and prudence. They remind us that the relentless pursuit of pleasure often leads to harmful excesses, while the pursuit of moderation helps us avoid the suffering that results from excess. Similarly, the Stoics encourage us to develop the courage and resilience to face pains and adversities calmly and bravely. Instead of fearing them, we can see them as opportunities to grow and strengthen our minds. The Stoic philosophy embraces the principle of indifference towards many external things, meaning that these things, such as wealth, social status, or material success, are indifferent to our virtue and intrinsic happiness. This does not mean we should not enjoy the good things in life, but we should not place our happiness solely in them since they are beyond our control. Stoics seek to develop a healthy emotional detachment from external circumstances. This means we should not be dominated by our emotions in response to material gains or losses. Instead, we should cultivate an inner tranquility that remains constant regardless of external changes. According to Stoics, the true source of contentment and happiness lies in the pursuit and practice of virtue. By prioritizing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in our lives, we find a more enduring and meaningful type of pleasure than that offered by fleeting sensory pleasures. Practicing indifference towards pleasures and pains requires a high level of self-control. This involves not being enslaved by our desires and not being dominated by the fear of pain. By developing this self-discipline, we can make more rational and ethical decisions. The seventh and final principle is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy and many other philosophical and spiritual traditions. For the Stoics, understanding oneself is the essential starting point for mastering the mind and, consequently, life. The Stoics encourage us to engage in sincere and continuous self-evaluation. This involves observing our own thoughts, emotions, and actions objectively and impartially. It is like looking into a mental mirror and recognizing our virtues, flaws, and tendencies. A fundamental part of this self-evaluation is recognizing our desires and aversions. We are often dominated by irrational desires or unfounded aversions that cause suffering. By identifying them, we can begin to question their validity and work to control them. The Stoics urge us to reflect on our values and principles. What is truly important to us? What are we striving for in life? This type of reflection helps align our actions with our values, fostering a more meaningful life. Self-knowledge also involves the ability to accept ourselves as we are, with all our imperfections. However, this does not mean complacency, but rather recognizing areas where we can improve and grow. The Stoics warn against self-deception, the tendency to justify our actions and rationalize harmful behaviors. Through self-knowledge, we can detect when we fall into this mental trap. Self-knowledge is not an end in itself, but a means to achieve self-transformation and continuous improvement. By understanding oneself better, one can work on building a more stoic mindset, cultivating virtues like courage, temperance, wisdom, and justice. If you found value in this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps YouTube understand that this type of content is valuable to people like you, allowing us to continue creating more videos like this in the future. Remember, the journey of self-mastery and inner peace begins with a single step. Let's take that step together.